Welcome to the Niche Pursuits podcast. Today, our guest is Ben Adler from Keyword Chef, a keyword research tool. Ben joins us today to talk about, you guessed it, keyword research. He's quite the expert at it, given that he developed his own SaaS product to help website builders with their keyword research. Ben has a background in website building. We touch on some of the websites he's built, but the majority of the interview is spent talking about keyword research. He shares a lot of great tips for how to find low competition keywords, how to understand search intent, what types of keyword queries you should go after, which ones are evidence of low competition. We kind of get into some discussions on the idea of topical authority, keyword clustering a little bit. And I also pick his brain on which type of niches to look for when you're looking to start a website. While keyword research is normally done once you pick a niche, Ben shares some pretty compelling reasons, some pretty good reasons for why you might want to be doing keyword research before you pick a niche. We talk a little bit about Keyword Chef, how he started it. It's a fun story. Hearing how he developed this keyword research tool and the types of queries that it can help you find. So I hope you enjoy today's interview with Ben, and we'll see you on the other side. Introducing nichesites.com. Are you looking to scale your niche site portfolio or build your first website? Look no further than nichesites.com. With a portfolio of successful websites and over 700 plus satisfied clients, the folks at nichesites.com have the skills and experience to help you succeed. From keyword research to link building, content writing to done-for-you websites, nichesites.com offers a full range of services to help your content site grow. As the saying goes, a trial is worth more than 1,000 words, and they're offering a special trial just for new customers. You get 5,000 words of content completely free with your order of 10,000 plus traffic backlinks. Don't miss this opportunity. Head on over to nichesites.com/trial and take advantage of this amazing trial offer. Again, it's nichesites, plural, nichesites.com/trial. Go claim your free content today. Before we jump into the podcast, I wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Here's a short clip of Ferry from Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
In this video, I will show you how we landed a placement on BBC and dozens of links in massive regional online publications such as Wales Online, Daily Post, and many more. This PR campaign was about the easiest place to pass your driving test for the first time in the UK. This is how we've done it. We simply went to the DVLA website, found the latest car driving test data by test center, and downloaded the data in a CSV format. Once we had the data, all we had to do is to look at the number of total tests per test center, then look at the number of first time passes to calculate the percentage of people who passed their test for the first time. Once we had the percentage numbers, we created a press release with our findings. Then we went to Roxhill and found journalists who talk about driving tests, and also looked for journalists who write in regional publications in the UK. In total, we have found about 1,800 journalists and sent them our press release by email. Within less than a day, our story got picked up by BBC, Cornwall Live, Wales Online, and dozens of other publications in the UK, providing our client a tsunami of backlinks perfectly relevant to the audience of the client, who is a specialist in learner driver car insurance. I hope this video is helpful and it shows you how you can also build links with freely available data from official sources.
If you want similar link building PR campaigns for your website, head to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them now. All right, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits podcast. My name is Jared Bauman, and today we are joined by Ben Adler with Keyword Chef. Ben, welcome.
Hey, Jared. Thank you.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks for coming on board. I'm really looking forward to the interview today. I already kind of buried the lead. You are with Keyword Chef, which means that we are going to be talking a lot about keyword research today. And I feel like this one's been a long time coming. I know that you had an interview on the blog, on the Niche Pursuits blog a while back and stuff. So it's gonna be really good to have you on the podcast today. Thanks for coming.
Good, thank you.
Why don't you catch us up a bit on who you are and maybe a little bit of your background before Keyword Chef was started?
Yeah, I like doing this because I kind of think it's a cool story, but it's about me. So, but
It's okay.
yeah,
I
so
asked.
I have a developer background, and I was with a job for maybe 9 years doing programming. And during that time, I was always interested in like making money online and passive income, but I didn't know anything about the world of making money online, because it is a new world for people who don't know about it.
Oh yeah.
So, I was just looking for ideas and I was browsing Reddit one day and I came across this post from someone with a vacuum cleaner website and he was doing reviews and he actually shared his website. So I looked at the website and it didn't look very good. And I thought, hey, I could do this because I'm a developer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about SEO at the time. But this person was making $500 a month with this vacuum cleaner website. And that I was like, wow, I could do this. So that was like my aha moment into affiliate marketing and blogging. So I built a couple of sites. I wasn't really into them. They didn't really work out. They were bad niches. And then a few months later or whatever, I was still thinking of ideas for niches. And I found one that didn't really have much competition at the time. So I kind of got lucky. So I built a review website because that's all I knew because I was copying this other website I saw about the vacuum cleaners. So I just reviewed, I didn't even know much about keywords at the time. I just reviewed all the products in my category.
Mm-hmm.
I read like every single Amazon review. I read user manuals, I watched videos, and I made these really helpful articles. And then I compared the articles, like, product A versus product B.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a good strategy because I already knew all the information. So these articles were easier to write because I already did the individual one. So I just compared them.
Mm-hmm.
So I just made that review website. And then this was way back when Amazon rates were better. But in like December, that site was making like $6,000 a month. And then it started going downhill as Amazon cut commissions. I had more competition. And then I put ads on the website, which helped, which I should have done long before. But I thought ads were spammy, so I missed out on a lot of money. Anyways, I made a couple other sites, and during this time, I built a Facebook group to help teach people how to build these niche websites.
Okay.
I still run that Facebook group now. It's very active. So I was building this online community. And then at one point, I was getting good at keyword research. And I thought, with my programming background, I could automate my keyword research process, make it into a software tool, and then sell it to my Facebook group. So that's how it all started, basically.
So that's how it started. But you didn't intend to start this community for marketing a keyword tool.
No,
you had other intentions for it.
Yeah, I actually started it to sell a course. I didn't make a course. I got a few signups, but I realized I really didn't like making courses. Software was much more enjoyable for me. So even though I had discontinued the course, I still kept the group active. And I just sold them a different product. That was better. So.
It was better. Yeah. And I mean, I've got to imagine your programming background obviously had a big influence on the keyword tool you created, Keyword Chef. But do you feel like it gave you any advantages in terms of the websites that you built?
Maybe a little bit. I might do some HTML and CSS to make certain things look pretty. But there's so many templates and plugins out there, and you could hire someone off Fiverr for $5 to make a little snippet box if you really wanted to. So I mean, it did help a little bit, but it wasn't like a huge advantage
Yeah.
or anything.
Yeah. I'm curious, like, how did you teach yourself SEO in essence? I mean, it sounds like you ranked these websites based on, I mean, good keyword research, writing really helpful articles, and then, getting Amazon affiliate commissions from them. Like, how did you learn how to do this? I mean, I get that you maybe picked a couple in the wrong niche, but we all do that. Our first sites are rarely ones we're looking back on proud of or necessarily rank all that well. But what turned the corner for you? How did you figure it out so you got such a successful site?
Yeah, one thing was like lack of competition, which really helped. And then, I was teaching myself SEO at the time, from like Neil Patel and Brian Dean from Backlinko. So if I had a question, like, I would research a lot of things like, does title length matter for SEO?
Right.
or like, how long should an article be? So I would just research things as they went along. But what really turned the page for me with keyword research is from Income School. Are you familiar with them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't take their course, but they had a free video on their YouTube channel talking about how if you find forums ranking in the SERPs, that's a good sign of low competition.
Right.
So I was like, wow. So that really blew the door open for me in terms of getting good at keyword research.
Let's talk a bit about, and because I'm sure it's evolved, especially with you building a tool, but let's talk about the early days of keyword research. What was working for you? Where did you find the keywords for your biggest articles, or what kind of methods did you use to end up getting the money-making articles, And
yeah, well, most of my money came from like the reviews. And I didn't, like I said, I just reviewed all the products in my niche. But when I started doing more like info-based articles, basically I would like go to Google Auto Suggest and do what's called the alphabet soup method and just type in like, why is, product name, and see what comes up for the autocomplete suggestions. And those are real keywords people are searching for. And Google is telling you this for free.
Yep.
So it's a free keyword research method. And then to get the search volume, I was using Keywords Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that will tell you the search volume right in the SERP and even in the autocomplete suggestions. It's really cheap. It's like $10 for like 100,000 search volume checks. But there's a free tool out there called like Surfer SEO, another Chrome extension, which is free. So if you're on like a really tight budget, you don't want to spend any money on keyword research at all, this is a good free way to start finding keywords. And then you can analyze the SERPs manually to see which ones have forums on them. It is more tedious, but it teaches you what to look for and what to search for to get good at keyword research. So once you know what to look for, then you can optimize using these tools.
Right. I mean, it sounds like you were in the on the early side of what now is called and referred to frequently as topical authority. Without maybe that being a focus of yours, it sounds like you were just writing a lot of content about the topic based on a very manual keyword research process.
Yeah, in some ways I was like I said, reviewing every product. That probably told Google I was the website to go to about reviews for that product.
Well, why did you end up were you automating, or were you setting out, I guess, to build a tool? I'm just curious. Were you setting out to do it to solve your own problem, to kind of make your keyword research process quicker, or did you kind of think, I got something here, I got a programming background, let's take this concept to market?
Even though like I still use my own tool, like that's the only tool I use now for keyword research, but it was a second thing. Like taking it to market was my main focus. Like I've always wanted to have my own software company, but I thought I needed to like hire a bunch of employees and things like that. I didn't understand the SaaS model at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But along the way, I learned about SaaS, and I was like, oh, this could be a SaaS. So I committed to making it into a good product to market.
That's great. That's great. Okay, well, let's talk a bit about the tool you created, and I'm curious to get the story of the build, and maybe what it took to get the product from a concept to something that you were able to release to the public.
Yeah, it actually started on like my whiteboard. I like to plan things out, and there's a lot of pieces involved in a keyword research tool. It's like, how do you get the keywords? How do you get the volume? How do you get the SERP? How do you analyze the SERP? And you need to make all that anytime you're working with a lot of data, you need to make it cost effective. You need to make it fast. So it's like, how do I manage all this data and make it cost effective? So that was like the first planning purpose, like the first planning stage. Stage one is just like mapping things out. And then it's just like programming it, and am I going to scrape the data? Am I going to use an API? How do I store the data? And I just built it and learned along the way, like how to make full stack applications and things like that.
Right. Is you kind of teased it when you came out with the tool. It sounds like you relied pretty heavily on the community you had built up. How did you build up that community? If like this community you had, it was intended to launch a course. It sounds like you didn't even really go very far in the course. So how did the community get so built up? What was kind of behind the community and its growth?
Yeah. So when I first learned about courses, I was like, oh, courses are a good business model. I'll create a group for that. So that's when it started. So I was already active in some of the Facebook groups already. So I did some research about how to build Facebook groups, and what I learned was you can set up what's called a profile funnel, which is basically advertising your group on your Facebook profile. If you're in online marketing, you've probably seen these.
I've heard of them. Yep.
So I did that, and then I didn't spam people, but I went into other groups and I just started helping people, like answering questions, and really just become a valuable member of the community. And sooner or later, people get to know you. They'll send you friend requests and things like that. And then at one point, I posted on my Facebook wall saying, "Hey, I'm making a group teaching people how to make review websites. Do you want to join?" So from that post on my wall, I got the first 50 members in my Facebook group. And then I just tried, I put a ton of helpful content in my group. Like I made a mini course. I made guides that were 500, 600, 700 words long that were basically blog posts. And I would pin them in the group. And when people join the group, they're like, wow, this is super helpful. Like some people would charge, an arm and a leg for this information you're giving away for free. So I just made the group really valuable. I moderated it from spam. And I just helped people. And, I did advertise it in a few other groups here and there. And some other bloggers, they actually reviewed my group for a best affiliate marketing groups on Facebook.
Oh, nice.
I don't know how much I got from that, but
yeah,
I probably only got a few members that way.
Of course, that would be a review that a blogger would write. I didn't even think about that. It's
yeah. So
very ironic.
Yeah, in the beginning, the group owner is going to be doing most of the work trying to keep the group active, and it's just answering everyone's questions. My philosophy is if someone asks a question in your group, you don't want that answer to go that question to go unanswered, because people post in groups where they can be helped, right?
Right.
So if no one's getting help in your group, they're going to a different group to get help. So I was just very attentive and like very helpful responding to questions, and just like over time the group, just grew over time.
Right. And that probably also made it so that when you launched Keyword Chef, like you were able to talk about it in a way that people understood you as a trusted, helpful member of the community, not just someone trying to kind of, pitch a product, full circle.
Yeah, exactly. I tell people like marketing to me is just helping people. Like I'm not very good at copy or emails or funnels. I didn't send emails until like years later. So I just like, I like doing things online. I like helping people. I like community. So that's what I do. And that works for me.
So tell us a bit about what Keyword Chef does. There's a lot of different keyword research tools out
Yeah.
there. Does it embody really some of the things you've already talked about in terms of the way you do keyword research? Like what's the core differentiator, the unique part about Keyword Chef when it comes to research?
Yeah. So everything I mentioned about doing keyword research manually, that's automated now into Keyword Chef. So it will find keywords, it will get the volume for you. But the one thing it does really well is it will analyze the SERP results for a keyword. So what a lot of people do manually is when they're analyzing competition for a keyword, they'll go to Google, they'll Google that keyword, and they'll look at the top 10 results to figure out who the competition is, right? So imagine if you have 1,000 keywords, go into the SERP every time for 1,000 keywords.
On each of those.
That's going to take days, literally, right? There's nothing more tedious than checking the SERPs for 1,000 different keywords. But what Keyword Chef does, it analyzes the SERPs for you, and it highlights ones that have things like forums ranking on the first page, or social sites, or free blog websites, like Blogspot, for example, or e-commerce sites. So you can really analyze any type of site you want, and you can even add your own website. So if you know who a competitor is that's easy to outrank, you can even add that website for it to analyze. So it's analyzing these SERPs in real time for all the keywords and telling you which ones are easy based on your own criteria. So it's like a customizable competition metric that is very transparent.
And so just for people who are listening who might not be aware of the way that that your keyword research tool is put together, it sounds like what it's pulling out is, hey, we want to analyze what is low competition. And so it's really trying to say, and you went through it, like forums, what else? Free blog sites. So that's like a Tumblr or something like that, like a Blogspot, those kind of things. Yep. What else? Like, what are other signs of low competition? Like, hey, if you see this in the SERP results for your keyword, chances are, if you write a really good post on this, you can outrank it because you see these signs.
Yep, exactly. So anything with like user-generated content, so that could be a forum, or it could be like Reddit or Quora.
Yep, Reddit, Quora, okay.
Or it could be a social website like Twitter, or like a Facebook or Tumblr, like you said. I also say free blog websites because, like, generally speaking, if you have like a free blog website, you probably aren't very good at SEO. So
my first blog was on the free Blogspot. This is back in like the early 2000s, for the record. But yeah, like I remember the day when the day came when it was like, if we really want to rank for anything, we're going to probably have to switch this to a regular WordPress blog, not a free Blogspot account. And then we had to do the migration. I had my first migration, all that. But no, good point. We were not taking blogging seriously back when we were on a Blogspot website. So
yeah, exactly. More serious bloggers tend to use WordPress. Other things are like files. So maybe like a PDF.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I can look for those as well. And then depending on the search intent, possibly e-commerce.
Right.
So if someone's looking for like a rich informational article to read and e-commerce is showing up, there's a search intent mismatch there. So the e-commerce site in that case would be low competition.
Got
but,
it.
But if someone is looking for something to buy and Amazon shows up or another e-commerce site, then that's probably not low competition because the user wants to buy something.
So the difference there would be, I'm looking outside and it's raining right now. So the difference there would be if I'm searching for how to find or how to pick a good rain jacket and Amazon is showing up right away, there might be an opportunity to write an informational article that would satisfy that query versus if I just type rain jacket.
Or buy a rain jacket. Or something.
Buy a rain jacket right. And that's going to be more of an e-commerce type query where, that would be the difference where if you see an Amazon ranking, when it would be good to go after it and when it would be not good to go after it.
Yeah. So you kind of have to use your brain, what is the search intent? What does a user want in terms of results? And then evaluate your criteria based on that.
So let me get your opinion on this. I mean, I run into this a lot at our agency when we're doing, finding different topics to write about. But, when you see a Reddit, you would think, well, Reddit's a very popular website. I'm just using Reddit as an example, by the way. You could use this for any number of them, but Reddit's a very popular website. It's probably pretty trusted in terms of a domain by Google. So in your opinion, why is it that when a Reddit result shows up in the top results for a search, it's actually a fairly easy keyword to target?
Yeah, that's a good question because if you're just going by DA or something,
right, like domain authority or whatever metric you want to call it,
Reddit is going to be very high because it probably has tons of backlinks. So this is why DA isn't always accurate. So Reddit, like any other user-generated content where users are logging in and typing whatever they want, these sites, they're not very SEO optimized. If you go to a Reddit post, it doesn't have headers and subheaders. It doesn't have internal links. A lot of the things that people write might be off topic. They might be funny memes or jokes. It's not going to be as in depth most of the time. So because it's user generated content, that means the content is probably poor quality, disorganized. And these sites, they don't have a lot of the basic on-page SEO signals. Like I said, like subheaders, internal links, images with proper alt tags. So it's just very poorly optimized for those reasons. So if a site like that is ranking and it's poorly optimized, it probably means it's an easy keyword.
Yeah, and I agree with you because it's amazing how when you'll see the a forum ranking high, it usually is pretty beatable, even for brand new website. I mean, I want to say brand new. I use air quotes here to be, every situation is a little different, but newer websites can rank for these types of queries.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've done it without backlinks. Like your helpful content will outrank these poorly optimized sites.
Before we jump into the podcast, I wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Here's a short clip of Ferry from Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
In this video, I will show you how we landed a placement on BBC and dozens of links in massive regional online publications such as Wales Online, Daily Post, and many more. This PR campaign was about the easiest place to pass your driving test for the first time in the UK. This is how we've done it. We simply went to the DVLA website, found the latest car driving test data by test center, and downloaded the data in a CSV format. Once we had the data, all we had to do is to look at the number of total tests per test center, then look at the number of first time passes to calculate the percentage of people who passed their test for the first time. Once we had the percentage numbers, we created a press release with our findings. Then we went to Roxhill and found journalists who talk about driving tests and also looked for journalists who write in regional publications in the UK. In total, we have found about 1,800 journalists and sent them our press release by email. Within less than a day, our story got picked up by BBC, Cornwall Live, Wales Online, and dozens of other publications in the UK, providing our client a tsunami of backlinks perfectly relevant to the audience of the client, who is a specialist in learner driver car insurance. I hope this video is helpful and it shows you how you can also build links with freely available data from official sources.
If you want similar link building PR campaigns for your website, head to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them now. So, I mean, in terms of low competition, what are are there any others? You've already gone through a lot of them, by the way. So I don't mean to imply there's more, but are there any other kind of giveaways? Like, let me give you an example that I'm thinking of recently. If I see a bunch of YouTube results in the query, should I go after that or should I not go after that? One side says YouTube is user generated, but the other side says maybe Google's showing a preference for video there and my blog post wouldn't do well. Like some of these scenarios now I have questions for you about, and from your opinion, what you see.
Yeah, videos are tricky. I think in cases where the query is like a how-to, or the user wants to see something visual, like how to tie a tie, right? Like people want to see a video on how to tie a tie. They don't want to read about it.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, when the user wants to see something visual, video is what the user wants to see, and that it's going to be harder to beat that video with an article.
That makes sense.
If it's more like just something that people want to read instead, yeah, maybe a video would be easier to outrank in that case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do see that. So just like be mindful of search intent and what the user wants in that case.
When it comes to the tool, when it comes to Keyword Chef, how do you guys measure, or is there a way to measure intent? I think of my own keyword research, and I oftentimes will end up with a lot of keywords, but I have a hard time figuring out which one I should write and which ones are related and I should not write. Because you don't want to write all of them because they're all somewhat similar sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, how do you guys, and just where, in your opinion, does one kind of sift through and pick which is the quote unquote right keyword to focus on versus the similar ones, right?
So there's two ways Keyword Chef helps with this. The first is it has like a built-in filtering system where it will actually remove keywords and not show them. And these are keywords like, if you're searching for pizza and a keyword comes up like pizza near me, like you wouldn't want a blogger to write about that because they're not going to rank for it, right?
Yep.
So I have a filtering process where I remove a bunch of those keywords that a blogger should not write about. So that kind of helps. And the other part is I have like categories. So like if you only want to see questions, you can select questions, or if you only want to see how-to keywords, which could be a lot of video, like people want to know how to do things and see it visually. So I actually have a separate category just for how-to. I have a separate category for best if you're doing reviews. So you're not going to see like a lot of like keywords where people just want to buy things right away, like e-commerce stuff. I tend to weed those out. But people can like pick their own search intent based on the category they want. And it might not be perfect all the time. So it's like, you always have to use your brain, of course, when using a keyword research tool.
That's a good disclaimer to always put out there, but you'd be surprised by, how often people will just take what's on the spreadsheet and write it. So it's a good disclaimer to put out there.
Yeah.
I'm just going to I gathered, the different keyword research questions that I get, from whether it's Twitter or some of that. I get these, and I thought I'd ask you. So some of these are not necessarily my questions, but they're questions I get asked a decent amount. But here's one that I hear a lot, and I'd love your clarity on it. Grammatically incorrect keywords, or keywords that, don't flow naturally. Obviously, SEO people who are focused on search engine optimization, they're taught to use the keyword to get it, in the title, to get it on the H1 or the H2, to work it in. Grammatically incorrect. How do you work it in? I mean, so what are your recommendations for using keywords that, are missing a or an and or a the, that grammatically aren't quite right, and how to use them in an article when you're researching?
So with like typos and like grammatically incorrect, I think there's there's two ways to look at this. Some people intentionally go after misspellings, um, and they think they will rank higher for that misspelling if they misspell the keyword in their article. I think I've never done this, but I think in some cases that might work for certain keywords, perhaps where Google doesn't have a lot of information and thinks the misspelling might be an actual separate keyword.
Right, the actual intent behind it.
So if maybe for some keywords where Google has limited information, that might work. But Google, most misspellings, Google knows what the user actually wants. They even have a thing like, did you mean blah 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 to fix your typo, right?
Yep, you're right. Yeah, they do. And they autocorrect it for you. They're like, well, we're pretty sure you meant this. So we actually ran the query on this. If you'd like to go back to your misspelling, hit this button.
Exactly. So like I was searching for some programming query the other day, and like I was searching for like tabs, like like browser tabs, and the search results were all about tables. So, so it actually showed me like incorrect results based on my query because it thought I wanted something else.
Right. It actually, yeah. No, and that does happen. I'm trying to think of a scenario that happened to me somewhat recently too, where I'm looking, I'm like, why did I get all these results? And I go back up to the top, but it changed my query. It's just because I didn't know how that's the problem for me, is I'm just a terrible speller. So I end up getting a lot of bad results because I don't know how to spell something. And you're a bad speller when Google can't figure out what you're trying to talk about.
Yes. Yeah. You got to use a voice.
I do. Yeah, no, you're right. I sometimes do it just because I don't know how to spell it.
Yeah. But the other point you bring up is like, do I need the exact keyword in my article? And for good practice, like I like to include the keyword in my article, but it's not super necessary. Like Google has been getting away from exact keyword matches, and it has a lot better understanding about like the topic that the user actually wants. A few months ago, I did an analysis of a couple pages of some random websites, and I found like the keywords they were ranking for. And I went to their page and I did a search on that page for the keyword they were ranking for, which on the first page. And there were like 24 keywords they were ranking for on the first page that weren't mentioned anywhere in the blog article. So Google is smart to figure out what you want, but it doesn't. I think it's still good practice to weave in naturally the keyword here and there into your article, just to help Google figure out your website. But you mentioned like grammatical stuff, like do I need the word the or a? Like I wouldn't worry about being exactly like that. Just like get the main keywords in there. Those words are actually called like stop words, and excuse me. Some SEOs recommend like ignoring the stop words, like a and the and things like that. So overall advice, just like write helpful content, weave in the keywords naturally. Just don't keyword stuff, and just try to cover the topic thoroughly and match the search intent.
You teased it, so I'll go there. What are some other keyword, research mistakes that you see people making or that you run into, running Keyword Chef?
Yeah, a big thing is not matching the search intent.
Right.
So one article I was helping someone out with, it was like how to grow. What was it? It was like time of year, the best time of year to grow tomatoes or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about like the health benefits of tomatoes. Like, and if you have like a lot of content that's like not very relevant to the main query, that's like one mistake. So just because something is like related doesn't mean it's relevant to the query. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I've hired writers about like, I don't want to give my niche away, but I'll like try to find think of an example. Like okay, like I talked about like how to like how to change a tire on a car, right?
Okay.
That was the article I gave to my writer to write, and he started talking about like the history of cars or something.
Yep.
Even though it's still about cars, like learning about the history of cars isn't gonna solve the user's problem. So you want to think about like, does this information help solve the user's problem? You know,
It's a good point, because with all the tools out there that try to tell you like how many words you need, right? And how many, this article should be this many words based on a variety of factors. Sometimes writers struggle a bit to match word count, right? So you might end up with the history of cars and a little 3 paragraphs on Henry Ford, and and you're right. Like the reader's just like, I just want to change my tire. I don't really need.
right?
I think we had someone on the podcast recently where we see this a lot, is recipes, right? Where it's like, I just want to know how to make like I made salsa last night for my family, and I'm like, the first result, I'm like, I don't need to know the history of salsa. Really don't need to know where it's coming from. Just want to know how to make salsa.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Maybe talk about how the flavors interact with each other, how certain things enhance flavors.
Yeah, and I'm good knowing like I should buy Roma tomatoes instead of this other one. Like, that's awesome. Tell me that stuff, but I don't need to know the origin of the tomato.
Right, exactly. That's another good example of what not to do.
Okay. That spawned another question I get, and it's on my list, so I'll ask it. How do you know whether to write an article on the topic or whether to include that keyword or topic in a bigger article? I ask this question a lot in the podcast, and I know there's no like one size fits all answer, so I get that. And but what are your thoughts on that? Like we get these queries that it's like, man, should I write an article on that, or should I include that in the article? And I'm just curious where you come in at seeing so many keyword queries.
I get what you mean. Like, do I combine two articles and 2 keywords into one, or keep them separate? And I still struggle with this myself. There's a couple of things that can help. One is like looking at the search intent, and what you can do is do you can actually Google one keyword and then Google the other keyword. And if you see a lot of overlapping search results between the 2 keywords, that means Google thinks the search intent is very similar. So that's one way you can get an idea of what Google thinks if the 2 keywords should be combined or not.
Right.
But sometimes like you still don't know even doing that. And that process can still be tedious if you have a lot of keywords. So I mean, there are tools out there that do this. It's called like keyword clustering.
Right.
But if you want to do like a freeway, it's just like I try to think of like what keyword would be like the top level keyword, and then what like if a keyword would be a secondary like question that user might have. So like how to change a tire. It might be like a sub question someone might have is like, in which order do I put the lug nuts in? Like that would be a separate process. That would be like part of the same process as changing a tire. So in that case, think about like if they fit together that way and then make it into one article. But sometimes it's just very hard to tell for certain keywords. And another thing you can do is like, does this article can I answer this article with enough words to have it be its own separate article? If this other keyword, if I can only write like 300 words on it, I might just include it in a different article.
Yep. Yeah, that's a really good point. A lot of times you'll Google the keyword and you'll be a little perplexed, right? Like, well, there's a couple articles that are on that specific topic. There's a couple that aren't, but I like that idea of take the both keywords and then see if you're getting similar results. And if you are, you're right. Like Google's probably got the intent fairly similar for those. That's a really good tip.
Yeah. So if like 8 out of the 10 articles are the same, then that's a good sign to combine the keywords.
Right. And following that analogy. So if you Google like how to maybe you're writing the article on how to change a tire, and you're wondering like, oh, should I write a different article on how to change a Ford tire, or how to change a truck tire, or how to change a Nissan tire? But you would go search each of those, and if the same how to change a tire articles keep coming up, you kind of know, similar search intent. Got it. Okay. You mentioned earlier when you were trying to find an example about your niche with your websites, and I have on my list. I want to ask you about finding niches, and like how often do you see people using keyword research to actually find a niche, and how important do you think it is to be using keyword research maybe before you pick what niche to go into?
Yeah. So I think I know some people do use keyword research tools to find niches. Basically, they'll just plug in a topic and then they'll use Ahrefs to like see what websites are ranking, and if there's a lot of low DA sites for that keyword, they might pick that niche.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I do think it's important to do actual keyword research before you even buy a domain, and the reasoning is like, it seems out of order, but really you want to make sure you have a good runway before you take off. So if I can't find like 50 low competition keywords in a niche, like I don't want to start that site if I can only find a few keywords, because I don't want to start something, write all these articles, and then later find out like, oh, this is a lot tougher than I thought. So you want to like plan your runway ahead of time before you pick a niche.
It's a good point, because a lot of times the recommendation will be in order to validate a niche, it's go look and see what's ranking, and if there are some websites out there that aren't really strong or really built out, then that might be a good niche. But you're right, you also need to make sure that as a new website, you have enough of a runway to get liftoff with your writers. What other tips do you have for people starting their website? How to pick a niche? Any other insights you have from both your experience as a website owner, but also from the keyword research side?
So when I first started, like the niche I picked that I talked about that was successful, I didn't own the product. I didn't care about the product. I just made that website for money, and I was very passionate about making it successful. But as time goes on, like affiliate websites start becoming more of a grind, especially if you're writing articles yourself. So like burnout is real, writing articles all the time and researching things that you don't care about. So
you sound like you speak from experience.
Yeah. So my suggestion now, mostly for 2 reasons, is like, pick something you're interested in, to like prevent that burnout. And secondly, if you're already more knowledgeable in a topic about that you create a niche about, you're gonna have an advantage, like because you're able to talk about things in details, and especially now with like the Google Eats, they want writers with experience and expertise, which is you. You don't have to be like the most expert person, but Google calls these people everyday experts. If you've been you don't have to be like the top world tennis player, but if you've been playing tennis for 5 years, compared to a beginner, you're considered an everyday expert. Like you understand the topic a lot. So you're able to write about things. You're able to like maybe take a picture of your rackets, of your court, of your tennis shoes, like all that media you're adding in personal experience and stories. That's a unfair advantage you have compared to someone who's just outsourcing to a general writer. So yeah, pick something you're passionate about. And, like people forget about like, adding love to their sites, which I think goes a long way.
Do you see that? I mean, how important, I guess, from what you see is the number of low competition queries you find? Like, for example, if you had a niche that you were really excited about, but it was a little bit more competitive when you started digging into the keywords, versus a topic that you were kind of far less interested in, but had hundreds of low competition keywords, where would you lie on that? I'm just curious, which one would you pick?
Me personally, where I'm at now, I'd be more apt to pick something I was like more interested in.
And that's because you kind of stay invested more along the way, and you'd feel more excited long term about it.
Yeah, I would want to build like more of like a long term brand. I might I might start doing YouTube videos, and I can't do that if I don't really know much about the topic, right?
So the perfect scenario is to find something that has something you're interested in, but also a good, like you talked about, like a good runway of, in your words, at least 50 low competition queries.
Yeah. And like, if you write good articles, like if the competition is higher, you might still rank for them. It'll just take you longer, because good articles will acquire backlinks over time. I mean, it's not going to be the fastest method, but if you're passionate about something and you stick to it, you can still make it successful.
I want to bring it back to Keyword Chef, and I mean, talk a little bit. It's been around for how? When did you start it? I didn't even ask you at the front end. What year did you launch it?
It's like 2 years old. I started January a couple of years ago, so it's just like 2 years.
Wow, 2 years, and it's your full-time income now. It's what you do full time.
Yeah.
Man, congratulations. That's amazing. That is really cool. What are some 2 years old now, what are some some any numbers you can share with us in terms of, I don't know how many keywords you guys run on a daily or monthly basis, or just, I'm just trying to get an idea of the scope that you're dealing with this SaaS product.
Yeah. So we, like, in terms of serving keywords, we've served, like, the last time I checked, we served like 37 million keywords. Wow. We have like 30,000 users in the database.
Yep.
Some of those are duplicates, of course. Which I don't mind, as long as people aren't like abusing the system. But yeah, that's people really like it.
Yeah, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thanks.
If you can, let us know where to direct people and where people can follow along with what you're doing. You still have the community, right?
Yeah, I have my Facebook group.
Okay, yeah. Just share that. Where can people find the Facebook group?
Yeah, it's called Affiliate Niche Builders.
Okay.
Just like Google it not Google it, Facebook it.
Facebook, yep. Search it in the Facebook search bar.
Yeah. And then Keyword Chef is keywordchef.com. And I'm always available on like Messenger or email, ben@keywordchef.com. But I like helping people. If you ask a question, I'll get back to you.
I can tell. Yeah, I can tell you have a heart for that. That one that is pretty clear. Ben, thanks so much for coming on board. We'll get some of those. We'll get those links listed in the show notes. People can go if they want to join your Facebook community. Have any questions? Obviously, we talked about starting a website. We talked about keyword research. We talked about topical authority, search intent. Like, these are a lot of topics that a lot of people, especially in the early days of a website, have a lot of questions on. So I'm glad I kept a nice log of keyword related questions and could kind of hit you with a lot of those along the way. So thanks for joining us here on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Sure, Jared. Thanks for having me.
Introducing nichesites.com. Are you looking to scale your niche site portfolio or build your first website? Look no further than nichesites.com. With a portfolio of successful websites and over 700 plus satisfied clients, the folks at nichesites.com have the skills and experience to help you succeed. From keyword research to link building, content writing to done-for-you websites, nichesites.com offers a full range of services to help your content site grow. As the saying goes, a trial is worth more than 1,000 words, and they're offering a special trial just for new customers. You get 5,000 words of content completely free with your order of 10,000 plus traffic backlinks. Don't miss this opportunity. Head on over to nichesites.com/trial and take advantage of this amazing trial offer. Again, it's niche sites, plural, nichesites.com/trial. Go claim your free content today. I wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Here's a short clip of Ferry from Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
In this video, I will show you how we landed a placement on BBC and dozens of links in massive regional online publications such as Wales Online, Daily Post, and many more. This PR campaign was about the easiest place to pass your driving test for the first time in the UK. This is how we've done it. We simply went to the DVLA website, found the latest car driving test data by test center, and downloaded the data in a CSV format. Once we had the data, all we had to do is to look at the number of total tests per test center, then look at the number of first time passes to calculate the percentage of people who passed their test for the first time. Once we had the percentage numbers, we created a press release with our findings. Then we went to Roxhill and found journalists who talk about driving tests, and also looked for journalists who write in regional publications in the UK. In total, we have found about 1,800 journalists and sent them our press release by email. Within less than a day, our story got picked up by BBC, Cornwall Live, Wales Online, and dozens of other publications in the UK, providing our client a tsunami of backlinks perfectly relevant to the audience of the client, who is a specialist in learner driver car insurance. I hope this video is helpful and it shows you how you can also build links with freely available data from official sources.
If you want similar link building PR campaigns for your website, head to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them now.